Gina Carano is suing Disney, and quite frankly,
Police, get what you deserve!
The Gina firing is one of the most farcical events in Disney history due to how antithetical it is to how they act normally.
Snakes, of course.
Whether that be Pedro Pascal from The Mandalorian calling people Germans, remember this is a guy who's so replaceable in The Mandalorian, he doesn't even act in it anymore, or having their actors in interviews slur the fans.
Some of the fan base just sickened me to my stomach. You're no Star Wars fan in my mind.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor are really confident in that Obi-Wan Kenobi show, who then had little Leia saying that McGregor is begging to do another one, before that turned out to be literally true, where he's now begging people to write to Disney to get a season 2. In fact, actors for Disney regularly attack the fans. Here's another one.
The Star Wars fan base really seems to be the most kind of toxic.
Yeah, Simon Pegg's a guy who gets wheeled out regularly, as he was for She-Hulk, for example.
She-Hulk, attorney at law, best thing Marvel have done since Endgame. Tatiana Maslany is da bomb.
It's really weird when he's doing a piece of camera, he has to keep looking over here at what is presumably a script. That or a gunman outside his car forcing him to do it. I don't know. Looks a bit like a hostage video.
Tatiana Maslany is da bomb.
That would be the same She-Hulk that was a direct, unapologetic attack on toxic Marvel fanboys, where the main villain of the show was the audience. The same actress who didn't care if the show was successful because she already got paid. I got paid, my cup is full, how's your life going? All of that is fine because Disney has drawn an ideological line in the sand, and if you agree with them, you can seemingly say anything.
Professor Ludwig, why don't you tell our shareholders how they can vote?
Attack the fans as much as you want, and Disney won't say a peep.
All of the people were angry.
Those people.
Very
People that we
awakening
need
of-
to educate.
But you say even the most mild of comment that disagrees with their sacred cow, and well, you end up like Gina, fired after this post where the essential message is that the government made people hate their own neighbours first, and after that, they could do anything to them. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? And she dared to have the gall to write boop bop beep in her bio, something that was accused of being a slur, but as any sane person knows, those are words that you can choose yourself. They can be anything, and Gina's was simply boop bop beep. But now, because Disney, the bigots, claim that you can't call yourself anything you want. No, you've got to choose from the official prescribed list, which is just longer than the previous prescribed list.
Make it make sense.
They came out and demanded that she watch various different documentaries and attend a Zoom call with 45 people on it. Anyone who's been on a call with 10 people knows it's very difficult to talk as it is. At 45 people, that's just a struggle session. That is, you sit in a chair and everybody else will shout at you about how you're a bad person until you eventually break down in tears and give in. It's the aim, it's the goal, and it's a very old tactic.
Tell me why I should trust you.
It's not like Gina did any of this maliciously. No, she's a far nicer person than Disney deserves. Instead, Gina didn't know what people were talking about, just wasn't clued into it. Agreed to watch the stuff they asked her to watch, but wasn't going to go onto a Zoom call with 45 different people who can all have their phones out videotaping me. That's abusive. She was willing to talk to them, but on a smaller scale. In person. Of course, the rabid hordes lose their power when they're not in a horde and have to face their accuser one-on-one. They tend to have a spine of jelly, and so they didn't want that. No, it's the struggle session or nothing. And because of this, it had various knock-on effects on her life. Talent agency decided, we're not going to represent you anymore. A Star Wars writer and producer called her a jackbooted thug, along with various other slurs. Henry Cavill got dragged into it, and when Bob Chapek was confronted about what was happening to Gina, who commented that you are creating a blacklist in the industry when people can tweet out similar messages and yet only one of them is being fired, and asked, is there a blacklist? Chapek, rather than denying it, said, we stand for values. Values that are universal. Well, I'm not sure about universal, but they're certainly not in Disney. Values of respect, decency, integrity.
So, what do you think?
I think it's a beautiful lie.
You don't have any of those. You want Disney to talk about respect. How about hiring people to handle IPs, such as Taika Waititi going into Thor, but doesn't even like Thor, he only did it because he was poor, never even read a comic. That's not respecting the IP. You've got a new Star Wars director who seems to hate men and talks about how much he loves to make them uncomfortable.
I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable.
That's not respecting the audience. You have systemic racist and sexist discrimination within your company, having specific programs to give money to groups that you arbitrarily have decided should have it, simply because you discriminate against other ones, where you brag even your board isn't hired by merit, whereas you describe everyone else as a group of women and discriminatory terminology I would never use.
That's gaslighting. That's what it is. Like this, we're the victims. Feel bad for us. That's what that is.
Which basically includes Every single person in the world, except people that the WGA also have a problem with. This is from Film Threat. Male and Pale is stale. A response to an open letter to the WGA. This is something where they ask people to fill in literal checkboxes so that when people go for a role, they can literally tick all the things that they want and get out something at the other end. Not about talent, not about experience, no. Basically how you were born, something that Disney has codified into their very company with how you create anything. Mandatory, institutionalized discrimination.
At the end of the day, this is the story of representation, and it matters.
Saying how the aristocracy should be born in order to get on screen or into creatives. My favorite one is things like B3, casting director from an underrepresented group, or has not previously worked on a show in this role. You want this role to be filled by a tick box, or we want them to be completely inept because they've never done the job before. I want them to have no experience and be absolutely terrible at their job. That's what Disney wants for all of their productions. I can't imagine why your streaming service has lost $11 billion since it was created. And at the bottom of that chart, it goes, by the way, anyone involved in hiring decisions for any of this, you can't ask them about it. No, you can't ask them about it because that would be illegal. But what we'll do, we'll get the WGA to ask about it. They'll create the database, purely voluntarily, of course. We're just asking you to tick all these boxes. And if you don't tick them, well, then you'll presumably be excluded from everything because you won't be in the database which everyone's hiring from. So the WGA will ask about it, and then Disney will use that to discriminate on their hiring procedures. Oh, Bob, tell me about those values of respect, decency, and integrity.
Hey, Bob, if you're in the audience, go yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is.
Because I do agree with your last one. You value inclusion. Your problem is that the first three aren't compatible with that, because that is the destruction of standards, and the destruction of standards is the destruction of value. That's why you have to fire anyone who points it out. No matter how gently or softly or done without knowing the minefield that she's walking into, which seems to be what Gina did. And I mean, when you're getting slurred by former US senators, Disney's insane internal practices definitely have knock-on destructive reputational damage to someone like Gina, who, in the gentlest way possible, disagreed.
There's a theme here, by the way. A little bit.
At one point, her Twitter account even had a sensitive media warning, presumably to protect users from the truth. And the issue is, companies can get away with this until someone challenges them. That's why it's good that Gina is. The day has come, let's go Gina. Don't try to ruin my life with lies when your life can be ruined by the truth. Today is an important day for me as she is suing both Lucasfilm and Disney after they made a statement on Twitter that called her social media posts for making beep noises, denigrating people based on their cultural or religious identities, abhorrent and unacceptable. Now, everything that I've said in this video, apparently by Disney's definition, because none of those people have been punished, they must find them acceptable.
People that we need to educate, love into awareness.
Love them in the right direction.
Disney's policy on how we build the industry is obviously acceptable to them, but saying beep? Oh, you've crossed the line there, mate. I won't have you standing like a boot-up PC on my watch. Thank you very much. You can be called by whatever names you wish. No, not that one.
What I care about is the reality of goodness, not the perception of it. And what I see all over the place is people who care about looking good while doing evil.
What we'll do is lay minefields throughout the language of society, and then when you inevitably step on one, because they're changing all the time and no one can keep up with it, the moral arbiters at Disney will decide whether the mine goes off or not. But she continues, I was being hunted down from everything that I posted, every post that I liked, because I was not in line with the acceptable narrative. This was a bullying smear campaign aimed at silencing, destroying, and making an example out of me. If you say anything even slightly out of line, we will specifically go to destroy your life. Because disagreeing with Disney is abhorrent. And she says she never used aggressive language, she simply posted pictures and memes. Hollywood says they support female representation. Well, only up until the point that you toe the line, and it's far easier to push a line if the majority of the people that you're pushing forwards with it agree with it. She-Hulk had an entire plot line where she got hired as a lawyer specifically because she filled a checkbox, hated it herself because it made her feel worthless, but then went along with it anyway and touted the corporate line simply because she got paid a lot of money for it. I can't imagine which Salfa-insert that is.
There was a lot of eating. There was a lot of food.
It even made Jamila Jamil upset because she was told she was a diversity hire, which Disney would presumably confirm with their hiring procedures. The only problem is Disney just doesn't appear to have a problem with discrimination, despite the fact that that would offend Jamila. My co-stars were permitted to speak without harassment and re-education courses or termination, but I was not afforded the same right. Artists do not sign away our rights as Americans when we enter into employment. It is farcical to me that what you put on your personal Twitter can somehow affect your corporate work when you're only supposed to be working 9 to 5. It's not as if you said it in the offices. There used to be a separation between personal and professional. Now, I do think there's an argument that as celebrities, what you say in your Twitter feed read will inevitably affect your celebrity status and how many fans like you. The issue is all of this stuff was making people like Gina. You can see by the size of the line at the cons that the fans like her. This was simply the evil pixies within Disney and on Twitter that didn't like her. This was punishment that from the same people that think that this is positive and that making charts like this is fine. The same ones that cause your streaming service to lose $11 billion. If you're firing the person the fans like while keeping on the people that hate the person the fans like, then you've got a serious problem.
And they're going to boycott Disney?
They already are.
And she says she gets on fine with the co-stars, so clearly wasn't a problem on the set. And she has no problem with them saying whatever they want. And so as such, because Elon tweeted that anyone who has lost their job by things that were posted on Twitter, he would like to offer them legal representation, they contacted her, and so now she's going through the lawsuit with Twitter's help because her lawyers and ex wholeheartedly believe that she has a case. It has been difficult for me to move forward with the lies and labels stuck to me, backed and encouraged by the most powerful entertainment company in the world. An entertainment company that has built discrimination into the very foundations of their company. Something that taints every single piece of entertainment they create. Is it any wonder that the entertainment is crap now? Very apt from South Park there.
You're showing off.
Maybe a little.
Because this is a completely realignment of standards. No, we're going to get rid of standards. Talent, quality of writing, previous work, that doesn't mean anything. No, what we want to do is, can we have a photograph of you, please? Depending on whether we like how you look, that'll determine whether you get the job. Can we know about your privacy life? Because we'd really want to find out where you stick it, because then that'll affect your job career prospects.
What is it you like?
Nuts.
Yes, yes.
No, we don't care if you can write. We don't care if you know the source material. As Perry Chan put together a video, various different Disney writers telling us about their experience.
I was not very steeped in the comics.
I didn't read any comics or do any research.
I wasn't familiar with comics. I wasn't familiar with the movie.
Yeah, no one's surprised, love. I do notice you're sitting in front of a lot of books there. Have you read any of them? I'd love to know. Writer for Shang-Chi here. What do you think his qualifications are for the role?
We didn't lean into a whole lot of the history of the comic books.
I can't imagine. It's a mystery to me. I mean, they even got Freddie Mercury to write the Eternals. I'm sure Freddie knew all about them. I mean, after all, the Eternals saved lives. It went above and beyond to save lives, in fact. Although Disney didn't care enough about those lives to keep the Eternals TV series going. I mean, you would have thought saving lives would be worth any amount of money. I mean, one life is priceless, right, Disney? It's really important that those people are represented. You just wouldn't put your money where your mouth is to save those people. I don't know how you sleep at night. But let's hear Freddie's qualifications from the horse's mouth.
Candidly, we were not enormous comic fans.
I'd never guessed. I do know Jessica Gow's qualifications, though. Those I have down to a T.
There was a lot of eating. There was a lot of food. I wasn't super into superhero comics when I was a kid. I read a lot of like indie press stuff.
And it showed.
First thing I was told is don't read the comics.
Although I think it's understandable in your case, because after having watched Secret Invasion, I doubt you can read.
As a creator, they put you in a bubble. They don't let you talk about any of the other projects.
Which is a bit of a problem for a universe which is supposed to be coherent, although that is less of a problem for Echo, given that she can't talk at all.
You know, they're up for anything.
I didn't know Echo was next. I highly doubt that Echo was up for anything, though, you know. Running a marathon. I doubt she'd even hear about it. Although, as we found out from the making of Echo, behind the scenes they had face coverings which had holes in with plastic covers over it so that you could see the mouths. The only reason I can imagine for that is that the actress can actually lip read, but in the show the character can't. Disney, everybody.
We ultimately decided to redefine it for the series, and
I think she's talking about the definition of entertainment. Yeah, we redefined it to what comes out of a dog's backside.
thought that it worked better for the story that we're trying to tell.
It was certainly more accurate.
Did you ever read You've never read the comic.
No, that's because Taika Waititi is a talentless hack who never should have been hired for the job in the first place. Reading the comics wouldn't have helped Taika. That's one instance I'll actually let him off. Because with all these, it's not just the writers that should be to blame for it. It's the people that hired them. They're the ones who employed people who never read the comics. They're the ones who told them not to do any research. They're the ones involved in hiring practices like this. Who think that these charts are something to be proud of. The ones who caused their streaming service to lose $11 billion.
I'm not about to let a man take credit for a woman's work.
Where Bob Iger keeps repeating that he can turn it around, but never actually changes the staff within the company, which are causing the problem. And the thing is, I know the Access media will come out and stand with Disney with such ridiculously loaded titles, such as ex-Star Wars actor Gina Carano once caught to force Lucasfilm to give her job back, you're missing an entire word there, using Elon Musk's money. No, she doesn't. Do you think after everything that's been described about the company, someone would want to go back and work there? Are you insane? Why would you want to work at a company full of gremlins and demons?
Human scum.
All of this because sacred cows were insulted by beeping. This isn't a logical attack. This isn't based in reason. This is the same response you get to insulting a religious belief.
Professor Ludwig, why don't you tell our shareholders how they can vote?
That's why PC Gamer is talking about it. What does this have to do with a gaming magazine? Nothing. But the failed journalists who are forced to write about games they don't even like are at it again. The Mary Sue comes out. This Gina Carano saga that no one cares about anymore, that's why we're writing an article about it, just got worse. And there was an earlier title that they had for this same article, which they changed. Gina Carano sues Disney over deserved firing. I guess we changed the title to appear a little less, biased. Because if you think the firing was deserved, well, you're proving that you care about it. That means you've looked into it, looked at all the facts, and then made a decision about it. It requires effort and time, and that means that you care. But of course, if you come to the incorrect conclusion, and you're sitting there alone in your little corner surrounded by blue-haired nutters, well aware that you're on the losing side, well then you're just going to try and shame people into it. No one cares about this anymore. Why are you wasting your time? If you care about this, you're the one who's not in the majority. And obviously, you want to go with the herd, right? You wouldn't want to stand out from the crowd, would you? You wouldn't want to stand on your own 2 feet. No, one cares about it anymore. Be like us, in the majority. It's why they had to reframe it from one that everyone would obviously disagree with to trying to shame people as if you're the problem.
It seems your stupidity is second only to your inability to control your temper.
Continues to make her own gross social media posts. I mean, you managed to make an entire website out of being gross, so I'm not really sure why you're complaining. She's now suing Disney while being backed by Elon. A cursed sentence, if ever I've seen one. How dare you stand up for yourself? We have decided to excommunicate you from society. The least you could do is not stand up for yourself. How dare you? Where the lawsuit stating that the company discriminated against her because of her posts. Well, as Disney brags about, they discriminate all the time. It's literally built into their creative standards. Now, Carano is trying to get a court order to force Lucasfilm to recast her as Cara Dune. It's basically the She-Hulk story all over again. Because they would take an opportunity they were crowbarred into because of a checkbox, one which they haven't earned and don't deserve, they assume everyone else would. When your old boss has gone through calling you abhorrent and unacceptable and sit through a 45-person struggle session where you can be berated about what a horrible person you are, why would you ever want to go back? No, there's one thing that people like the Mary Sue do not understand about the importance of this kind of thing, and it's quite simple.
Police, get what you deserve!
It's about justice, and justice is something that Disney's finding out about naturally, as the customers leave them, as the people still employed are resorting to begging to get more work, because they're hiring people that don't care about the franchise, or actively hate the audience.
That I am working to bring something that makes you uncomfortable, and it should make you uncomfortable. You need to change your attitude.
Even to the point of making the audience the villain in the shows, and you were going to continue to burn money anyway. And Disney can't turn this around unless they fire the majority of their company, because they have been systemically putting this into the foundations of their company, to where now the majority of their company, including the board, are on board with this and would never hired for their talent in the first place. They lack the ability, the experience, and the values to create entertainment that anyone would go and see in the first place. So this isn't about getting a job back.
Not about money. It's about sending a message.
That not only shouldn't you be doing this, but you can't do this. And the longer you continue, the more you double down, the more money you will burn.
Everything burns.
And I'm just here to laugh at you as you do it. Don't try to ruin people's lives with lies when your life could be ruined by the truth. So good luck, Gina and Disney.
Police, get what you deserve!
But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe. More videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.